My dear viewers, welcome to my channel KKS Study 8. How are you all? Hope that you're all getting fine. Today I'm with a topic from Microeconomics, and my today's topic is demand and its relating issues. Obviously, there are so many issues to be discussed under the banner demand curve, like upward sloping demand curves, downward sloping demand curves, demand curve of relevant goods, demand curve of inferior goods, demand curve of a normal goods, demand curve of joint goods, elasticity of demand, contraction in demand, expansion in demand, and shift of demand curve. So there are a lot of things to be discussed under this banner, but today I will discuss only on typical demand curve, contraction in demand, and expansion in demand. These are my today's discussion topics. Okay, my dear friends, now come to the point. What is called demand? Demand is nothing but it refers to the amount of goods and services which a consumer wishes to purchase at given prices in a particular time or in a specific time. And there is a law of demands which says us that when price of a commodity goes up, demand will fall, and when the price of a commodity goes down, demand will rise. But when other things will remain unchanged, there is inverse relations between price and quantity, what the law of demand says us. There is the conditions here. There is other things which will remain unchanged. This is called ceteris paribus. When we follow the law of demands, we'll get the demand schedule. Demand schedule is nothing but it is an information about the price and quantity according to the law of demands. Demand curve describes the different quantity at different prices when other things remain unchanged. The informations given in the demand schedule, we can draw the demand curve. How? Very simple. When we plot the informations given the demand curve, we on a curve with price on its vertical axis and the quantity on its horizontal axis, we'll get the demand curve like this. This is typical demand curve which slopes downward from left to right. What does it shows? It shows us the inverse relationships between the price and quantity. In other words, we say that demand curve shows us what will happen to the quantity when price changes. Or in another words, we can say demand curve shows the highest price a consumer is willing to pay for a certain amount of commodity. Like when the price is P1, the consumer is ready to give or pay price P1, and it would be his highest price for the quantity of P1. Say P3 is the price when the quantity is 0. When the purchasing quantity is 0 or the demand for this commodity is 0, it means that when there is price P3, there will be no purchase at all. Why? Because consumer will think this purchase to be very much expensive for them at their present income level or with their present or existing purchasing capacity. So there will be no purchase at all. So things is clear here that price can rise up to a level, not more than that. Demand curve shows us this. Now consider other things. When a seller will not take any price from you, that is, when the goods will be considered as free goods, how much quantity will be purchased by the consumers. Here this graph shows that they will purchase Q3. Another thing here is that there is some rectangular area under the demand curves. What it describes? It describes the total expenditures. For example, for price P1, what would be the total expenditures? If P1 is the unit price of the commodity and you purchase Q1 quantity, total expenditures will be P1 Q1, because if we multiply the quantity purchased by the unit price, we will get the total expenditures. For a consumer it will be considered as total expenditures, and for sellers it will be considered as total revenue. So we can call the term either total expenditures or total revenue. So things clear here that rectangular area under the demand curve means the total revenue or expenditures. Here we see here that the rectangular area P1A Q1O is equal to P1 Q1. Similarly, it does so happen with another price mentioned here like P1 P2. So another thing is that slope of the demand curve. What about the slope of the demand curve? Demand curve slopes downward. A typical demand curve slopes downward. It slopes from left to right. But what is the reason behind this? What causes demand curve to slope down from left to right? The answer is very simple. Very simply we can answer this question in this way, that demand curve slopes down due to the income effect along with substitution effect and with the actions of law of diminishing marginal utility. So my dear friends, these are all about typical demand curves. Now come to another point, the expansion of demand curves. When a consumer moves along the same demand curves, there will occur expansion in demand or contraction in demand. What I say is that when a consumer walks or moves along the demand curves, there will occur expansion in demand or contraction in demand. So my dear friends, graphical presentations will make you clear. Here we can see that when a consumer is staying at point A on the demand curve BD, and from the point A, if he starts moving towards upwards and reaches at B, you will get the price P1. For P1 price, you will purchase Q. So here we see that when price increases from P to P1, the consumer will move from A to B. There is a movement, and this movement will be termed as contraction in demand because there is increase in price. How much contraction in demand? This is Q1. Why? Due to increase in prices PP1. Clear, my dear friends? Now come to expansion in demand. When consumer moves from A to B, you will get the price P1 and will purchase the quantity Q. So there will be expansion in demand, and how much expansion? The expansion is here QQ1 due to fall in price PP1. So my dear friends, I think you are very much clear about the contraction and expansion of demand. What causes contraction of demand and expansion of demand to happen? What would be our answer in that case? If someone asked me or asked you what causes contraction in demand or expansion in demand, our simple answer is that when a consumer moves along the same demand curve, there will be a contraction in demand or expansion in demand. Now come to the another issue, shifts of demand curve. What causes demand curve to shift? Very simply we can say that when other things which influences the demand of a commodity changes, it may change either positively or negatively, but there will be a change. If there is a change in the other things of the influencing factors of the demand, there will occur shift in demand curves. Graphs will make you clear here. See, people are on this demand curve. This is existing demand curves DD. When price of other things changes negatively, which causes demand to decrease, in that case this demand curve will shift from right to left because there will occur decreased demand. And on the other hand, if we see here that this is the shift of demand curve from left to right, when when other things changes positively in order to increase its demand, in order to increase the demand of a commodity, demand of the considering commodities, there will be a positive change of the other things and there will be increased demand, which causes demand curve shift from left to right. Okay, my dear friends, for when people shift from D2 demand curve to when people shift from DD demand curve to D2, for each price level there will be increased demand. And on the other hand, when people shift from this demand curve, when people shift from this demand curve to this demand curve, for each price there will be decreased quantity of demand. So I think that you are very much clear about this. Are you clear?